The National Desk, America's News, now.
We got a president that wants to give money to Gazans? Give me a break.
As President Biden tries to help both Israelis and Palestinians, the war between Israel and Hamas is causing a global divide elsewhere. Spending rebound, why more of your money might be going towards holiday gifts this winter season. And a new theory, why scientists say long COVID could be the result of a chemical shift. From the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. On this weekend edition, we take a look at the big headlines of the week, and we look ahead at what to expect, starting with the 4 big stories we've been following this week. Escalating tensions in the war between Israel and Hamas. We are covering all angles, including U.S. involvement in the conflict. Financial uncertainty, why experts say the power of AI could derail the economy if it goes unchecked. Starting to circulate new numbers revealing which viruses are spreading and which illnesses are being kept at bay. And later, head-to-head, the new poll showing the possible outcome of a Biden-Trump matchup in 2024. There's new reporting that some of the weapons used by Hamas against Israel were made in North Korea. At the same time, some Arab nations lining up against the United States. The National Desk chief political correspondent Scott Thuman has more on the growing global fallout from this war.
Images interpreted through different eyes. Some see President Biden with Israel's prime minister as allied solidarity. Others see it as taking a side, further escalating tensions. With the battles still waging on, President Biden backed Israel in his trip to the Middle East, but also promised help for citizens in Gaza, digging out, burying the dead, and now desperate for fuel, food, and medicine.
I was very blunt about the need to support getting humanitarian aid to Gaza. Get it to Gaza and do it quickly.
We have 31 Americans killed. We don't know how many Americans are hostages. And we got a president that wants to give money to Gazans? Give me a break.
And questioning assurances it will get into the right hands.
It cannot be misappropriated, it cannot be taken by Hamas fighters for their own purposes, and so we're going to be watching that very closely. It has to get to Palestinian civilians.
That despite Arab leaders snubbing Biden, canceling meetings with him while overseas. Meanwhile, American military hardware and vehicles delivered Thursday to Israelis, just as Hamas weaponry is now the source of controversy too. The Associated Press reports Hamas fighters likely used North Korean weapons during the initial assault, possibly provided from Iran.
Many, like this Soviet-built .50 caliber machine gun.
CNN assessing that firearms also appear to be altered Russian and Chinese weapons left behind on battlefields in decades past. All of these moves, including American involvement in the war in Ukraine, perhaps only exacerbating the divide and the more figurative battle lines drawn between the U.S. and longtime foes like Russia and North Korea. In Washington, Scott Thuman for the National Desk.
A multi-faith coalition of U.S. colleges and universities has issued a public statement supporting Israel and Palestinians and opposing Hamas. The statement comes after student groups and pro-Palestine gatherings at major universities like Harvard and UPenn face backlash. The statement reads, "We, the presidents and chancellors of universities and colleges across the United States of America and the world, stand with Israel, with the Palestinians who suffer under Hamas's cruel rule in Gaza, and with all people of moral conscience." It's signed by presidents of Jewish and Christian schools alike and HBCUs like Dillard University. Several associations, including the Association of Catholic Colleges and Universities and the Council for Christian Colleges, also signed on. As lawmakers consider how much aid to send to Israel, some Americans are wondering where the money might come from. The Fact Check team has more on which countries the U.S. has given the most aid to over the years.
Since World War II, the U.S. has given Israel an estimated $260 billion in combined military and economic aid, adjusted for inflation. I'm with Connor from the Fact Check team. How much aid has the U.S. given to other countries, Connor?
Well, Eugene, take a look at this map from foreignassistance.gov. You can see any country that's highlighted in a shade of blue received some type of foreign aid from the U.S. In 2022, the U.S. obligated $69 billion in total to 213 countries. And notably, most of the money was for economic assistance rather than military aid.
Which countries received the most aid from the U.S.?
Well, the most complete data is from 2021, so let's take a look at that. Israel received the most aid with over $3 billion, which was all military aid, by the way, followed by Jordan and then Afghanistan.
What about Ukraine?
Well, looking at preliminary data, Ukraine will surpass Israel and be the top recipient for 2022, getting nearly $12 billion from the U.S. after Russia's invasion. And $1.8 billion of that was for military aid. The rest was largely either for economic or humanitarian purposes.
Okay, Connor, thank you. And for more on this fact check team topic, including links to Connor's sources, scan the QR code on your screen or visit thenationaldesk.com.
More of your money might be going towards shopping as the holidays approach. A new report from Deloitte indicates spending will likely rebound to and even surpass pre-pandemic levels. The report finds shoppers are eager to start Christmas shopping, but they may be indulging on themselves and prioritizing non-gift purchases. Consumers are expected to spend an average of more than $1,600 on holiday-related purchases, 14% more than last year. New retail sales data from the Commerce Department shows inflation is not slowing down spending. The National Desk Audra Elnishar explains how this could impact the Fed's decision on interest rates.
American shoppers once again catching economists by surprise. September retail sales growth was more than twice as high as expected, up 0.7% from August, according to the Census Bureau, outpacing September's monthly inflation rate of 0.4%. A newly released Deloitte survey of more than 4,000 U.S. consumers shows shoppers have come to expect higher prices.
We're seeing about 72% of the shoppers are expecting to see inflation carry forward and expect to see higher prices.
Robust consumer demand, not entirely good news for Wall Street, as it could make the case to the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates higher for longer in order to bring down inflation.
This is the first year we're actually seeing spend exceed what it has been since 2019, 2018. Shoppers are indicating like, hey, I'm going to spend more this holiday season, but they're also aware of the fact that their dollars don't go as far as they used to in this inflationary environment.
One sector hit harder by current conditions, housing. The National Association of Home Builders says mortgage rates well above 7% are to blame for plummeting builder confidence and slowing buyer traffic. An entirely separate threat to the economy could come from rapidly developing AI technology. At least that's the warning from Gary Gensler, chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission. In an interview with the Financial Times, Gensler says a financial crisis in the next decade is nearly unavoidable without AI regulation. His worry is firms basing decisions on the same AI models will engage in herd behavior, undermining financial stability. In the near term, though, optimism is picking up. The latest quarterly survey of economists by the Wall Street Journal shows a new consensus: the U.S. is likely to avoid a recession. In Washington, I'm Audra Elnishar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
New details on the possible cause of some long COVID cases. A new University of Pennsylvania study suggests reduced serotonin levels might be behind lingering symptoms of the virus. That could explain the memory problems and other cognitive issues experienced by people with the condition. The findings are based on the blood results of long COVID patients, which were compared to people in the early stages of infection and those with no post-COVID symptoms. Right now, respiratory illnesses are starting to circulate, but overall cases remain lower than last year. The latest numbers show flu cases up 1% on October 7th compared to the week prior, while RSV cases are slowly rising. Overall, respiratory virus rates, which include COVID, flu, and RSV cases, have remained relatively unchanged in the last week. We are getting a look at a new poll showing a head-to-head matchup between President Biden and former President Donald Trump. The CNBC All-America Economic Survey finds 46% of registered voters are leaning towards voting for Trump or would vote for him if the election was held today. 42% either lean towards or would vote for Biden. 12% would vote for neither or are undecided. Coming up here on the National Desk, America's News Now, cyber warfare concerns how hackers could alter the course of warfare in the Middle East. Plus, homicide rates in the U.S. are down in America's biggest cities. Which areas are still facing problems with violent crime? In the past week, hacking groups with links to Iran and Russia have launched a series of cyber attacks against Israel. The National Desk Jan Jeffcoat went one-on-one with cybersecurity expert Lisa Garber to get more information on how cyber warfare could impact the war between Israel and Hamas.
To a new level with these hackers. They've attacked Telegram, Israel's electric grid, even a rocket alert app, and the websites of aid groups trying to bring humanitarian aid to the region. So tell us more about this and also the dangers right now to Israel's national security.
If we contextualize this, these parties, Iran, Israel, the United States, we have other malicious hackers coming in from Russia and Iran targeting Israel right now. But there's been a history of cyber warfare between these countries. If you look back, we have Stuxnet targeting Iran's nuclear system. We have a recent attack in the last 3 years from Iran targeting Israel's water supply. So now we see this physical war, this terrifying physical war, jump to the cyber atmosphere. Fortunately, Israel has some of the best cyber capabilities in the entire world, including its renowned Pegasus surveillance system. But still, we see malicious hackers, especially from Russia and Iran, targeting, as you said, the electric grid in Israel, targeting citizen alert systems, rocket systems that tell citizens when there are rockets in the air, and then also missile defense systems. This is to be expected, unfortunately. We've seen cyber warfare come up in every international incident in the last 10 years. Recently, the former NSA head said it's only a matter of time before cyber attacks are considered a sign of war. And so right now, we're just having to hope that these countries are very proactive in protecting their citizens.
So then, Lisa, what is the solution here when you have these politically motivated hacking groups that are impossible to control?
I wish I had a 100% guaranteed solution, and I don't think anybody in the world does right now. Many of these malicious hackers operate underground, and unfortunately, many are allowed by especially countries like Russia, China, Iran in defense of their own citizens. But now we have to understand that we need better budgeting, we need better laws, we need better resources funding the cyber wars that are happening. We have people on the defensive, but also on the offensive in every country.
Meantime, Lisa, back here closer to home, an anonymous hacker claimed to be selling millions of genetic profiles from the genetic test kit company 23andMe, specifically targeting those with Jewish ancestry. What do we know about this, and what can users do to stay safe?
Many consumers have willingly given up their genetic data to retail companies offering to show them what their ancestry looks like. We have Ancestry.com, and 23andMe is just another one. Unfortunately, this data breach isn't really all that sophisticated. They didn't get into any sort of piece of the company's security. What they did was a technique called credential stuffing, which just means the hackers found passwords that were part of older data breaches and tried them out for different consumers' accounts within 23andMe. Unfortunately, it worked. It looks like the numbers are now tallying up to 4 million people that use this service. And that means they got potentially names, addresses, emails, but also genetic information too. And while initially it looked like it was targeting Ashkenazi Jews, it now looks like it was targeting folks from Great Britain. It was targeting very wealthy individuals. Much of that data has been verified by 23andMe as being legitimate. And so as consumers, we have to be aware of what we give up when we use these types of services.
Frightening when you consider your DNA is out there for someone to potentially use and manipulate. We always say, Lisa, there are just some common sense measures you can do, companies can do to try and secure any information online, including changing your passwords, using that two-factor authentication. We expect these cyber attacks to ramp up. We know this in the coming weeks and months. What are you keeping a close eye on right now? What are some of the more vulnerable websites or infrastructure that could be targeted?
Well, these genetic retailers are a treasure trove of data. Obviously, hackers can do so many things. It's really up to the imagination to figure out what they could do with this type of very detailed, private data. What we have to remember as consumers is there's no federal law protecting this information any better than it would any other retail information. HIPAA doesn't apply, and this type of retail genetic data is another war front for hackers. So as individuals, understand what the privacy policy actually presents to you, but also passwords, dual-factor authentication, it may not be enough. And unfortunately, that's the only statement we've seen from 23andMe is, well, change your password, turn on dual-factor authentication. But we have to remember the federal laws are lacking right now. So write into Congress, write in and tell them we need better privacy laws, but at the same time, understand what types of data we're giving up. Unfortunately, it's great to see what your ancestry is and where your potential relatives might be residing, but understand what the consequences could be at the same time. So if you are part of this breach, put a credit lock on all of your cards to prevent identity theft, watch your credit cards, watch your email for spam, and just be on high alert.
Yeah, remember always what you are giving up. Privacy and security, cybersecurity expert Lisa Garber, great seeing you this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jan.
We're learning new details on the escape of Danilo Cavalcante that captivated America and terrified Pennsylvania residents. According to the AP, prison staff knew the convicted murderer was trying to break out. In July, a corrections officer noted he had an escape plan. He got out at the end of August by scaling the wall of an exercise yard and was recaptured after 2 weeks on the run. Right now, he's in a maximum security prison. A new report shows the homicide rate has dropped by an average of around 5% in 40 of the biggest American cities. Although there's been a decrease, homicide rate problems are still plaguing some areas. The National Desk, Janae Bowens, explains.
She was relentless in her goals of accomplishing things.
Just last month, Frank Lapierre shared through tears his adoration for his late daughter, Baltimore Tech CEO Pava Lapierre.
When we meet with her in the future.
Baltimore police say Pava was brutally killed by Jason Billingsley, a man who police say had been on a crime spree just days before Pava was murdered. This tragic case brings light to Wallet Hub's new report, highlighting cities with the biggest homicide rate problems. Baltimore, Maryland is number 6. Topping the list is Washington, D.C., followed by Memphis, Detroit, Milwaukee, and Atlanta.
We have less prosecutions with appropriate punishment when people are arrested.
Sergeant Betsy Smith with the National Police Association says a shortage of feet on the street also plays a role.
When you don't have enough police officers, proactive policing becomes very difficult because you're just going 911 call to 911 call, and you're not able to do those targeted patrols. You're not able to sit somewhere in a neighborhood and watch some of the activity.
Now, Wallet Hub's experts say the issue goes beyond policing and prosecuting. They say there's also a need for more restrictions on firearms to continue bringing homicide rates down. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens.
Still ahead here, a drive-by shooting near a Seattle daycare caught on camera. The terrifying moment when a bullet went through the window. Plus, sticker shock, how a Baltimore business owner got hit with a water bill totaling thousands of dollars. The National Desk team of reporters is bringing you the headlines from coast to coast. We're taking the pulse of America. We start in Maryland, where a South Baltimore woman received a water bill for $15,000.
On the city's struggling south side,
I'm working 7 days every day.
Mee Park
13 hours, 14 hours.
has spent more than 35 years building her business,
$197.14.
paying her bills, and enjoying a healthy life until now.
Stomach killer, headache. I can control, I can even work.
Lately, Park has been sickened by her water bill. Normally, her water bill on this two-apartment building hovers just under $200. But in August, that bill jumped to more than $13,000, and only one of the apartments is occupied.
Shock. Really shocked.
The city had charged her for 711,000 gallons of water, enough to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool. So Park hired a private plumbing company who inspected the building, repaired a toilet, and issued a finding, writing, "I could not find any pipes leaking."
Not majorly. Everything is fine.
But the plumber's finding didn't stop her bill from soaring. The next month, it climbed to $15,400. And today came the latest bill, $15,587.66.
I trust them. I thought they're gonna trust it's a water bill. But now I don't trust them. Because every time I turn around, they put like up to 2,000 more and go up more.
Her repeated calls to City Hall have produced no results. When we called the Department of Public Works today, a spokeswoman vowed to investigate. But for now, Mee Park has a water bill she can't afford in a city which she says has failed her.
I think they make a lot of mistakes. Not even a little bit, a lot of them.
Now to new surveillance video out of Washington State capturing a drive-by shooting that injured a man near a Seattle daycare. A window at 4 Apple Learning Center is boarded up and a pole out front is dented from the gunfire. The daycare owner says no kids were hurt and that they followed instructions as instinct kicked in to get those kids to safety.
Something clicked in my head. Army crawl, everybody. Let's go to the bathroom and army crawl. And that's what the children did.
Police haven't shared any information on a suspect or motive. In California, a wildlife warning in Redding. A man says his dog was attacked by otters. He says it happened as they walked at a park along the Sacramento River. Fish and wildlife officials say pet owners should always be vigilant and keep in mind that wildlife often attack out of fear.
They have a lot of sharp teeth, and they won't go after large animals because they can't eat them, but they will protect their families and protect themselves from predators and from people.
And don't keep your eyes peeled only near bodies of water. Officials say otter encounters can also happen on land where they are even more defensive. Taking a look at the top trending stories on our website right now, Netflix is raising its prices again. In the U.S., the premium ad-free plan is rising $3, now totaling $22.99 per month. One of the most beautiful meteor showers of the year is expected to peak this week. The best time to view the event is at 2 a.m. when watchers can see between 10 and 20 meters per hour. The man who holds the record for growing the world's hottest pepper has broken his own record with a new species. The new hottest pepper, Pepper X, is 3 times hotter than the previous record holder, the Carolina Reaper. Ooh. Those stories and much more available right now at thenationaldesk.com. New details. Dolly Parton will provide the entertainment at this year's Salvation Army's Red Kettle Kickoff halftime show during the Dallas Cowboys-Washington Commanders Thanksgiving Day game. Parton will ring holiday bells to signal the start of the giving season. Cowboy fans are also hoping her performance will help them overcome a run of bad luck. Last year's performance by the Jonas Brothers lifted them to a 7-2 record when big stars perform. Ahead in our next half hour, our team in Washington breaks down the latest on the war between Israel and Hamas, from potential U.S. involvement to the use of artificial intelligence. Plus, the suspect in the Gilgo Beach murders could be charged for killing more victims. How prosecutors learned the name of another missing woman connected to the case. You're watching the National Desk, America's News Now. You can catch us live weekdays from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, and anytime online at thenationaldesk.com. We'll be right back.
The National Desk, America's News Now.
We worry about AI as an amplifier for all sorts of misconduct.
Threats abroad leading to threats at home. Warnings about technology and terrorism that may be going ignored on Capitol Hill. Costing the economy, how the United Auto Workers strike is impacting dealers, consumers, and the big 3 automakers. Plus, student loan relief, the growing list of states now offering to pay off certain student debt. From the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. It's great to be here with you. And this weekend, we are following an unprecedented warning from the head of the FBI and 4 other intelligence services around the world. They're sounding alarm bells about growing domestic threats with bad actors and would-be terrorists more likely to use technology to assist. The National Desk, Christine Frizzau, brings us the details.
Violence in the Middle East prompting new threats here at home.
On full display at protests worldwide, deep anger, experts say, may soon be used to harness new ways to try to launch attacks in parts of the world bad actors could never set foot in. One of the biggest risks, artificial intelligence.
AI over time, and potentially sooner than we might think, will give various of our adversaries, both sophisticated adversaries and less sophisticated adversaries, new ideas, new access to dangerous knowledge.
From fake photos like this, showing Donald Trump being arrested, created by Bellingcat founder Elliot Higgins, to using AI technology to mimic the voice of children to conduct so-called virtual kidnappings to try to extract ransom payments from worried parents.
We worry about AI as an amplifier for all sorts of misconduct.
These concerns raised by leaders from Five Eyes, a group formed after World War II to better share intelligence.
Where it's most dangerous is essentially taking junior varsity bad actors and bringing them to the varsity level. But in fairly short order, we're going to be seeing AI taking the varsity level athletes and taking them to a whole nother level of dangerousness.
Despite the urgency, those who study technology say the warnings are being ignored, in large part because so many leaders don't understand it.
Throughout Capitol Hill, you have people who have never logged into Twitter, who have never made a post on Facebook. And, we're expecting them to understand artificial intelligence, but the world is moving on without them.
Along with the warnings about AI, security leaders made clear it's also been extremely beneficial in gathering intelligence and countering threats. Finding the balance of its use and misuse expected to be among the greatest challenges for the future. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
TikTok is the latest social media platform to announce steps to curb misinformation related to the war between Israel and Hamas. The video sharing app says it's launching a command center to better coordinate with its global team and will update the software to better detect and remove graphic content. The European Union has issued a warning to social media companies about recent posts being in potential violation of EU content moderation law. Following the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas, Hezbollah exchanged fire across the Israel-Lebanon border. Some call it a show of solidarity with Hamas. The fact-check team has more information on the group's history with the U.S.
The U.S. designated Hezbollah a foreign terrorist organization back in 1997. Now President Biden is warning the group to stay out of the Israel-Hamas war. Back with Connor from the Fact Check team. Walk us through Hezbollah's history with the United States.
Hezbollah has been linked to several terrorist attacks against the U.S., starting in 1983 when Beirut's U.S. embassy was bombed, killing 63 people. Then months later, there were suicide attacks on barracks housing French and U.S. soldiers, killing over 300 people. Since then, there have been several other attacks, like when Hezbollah hijacked Flight 847, and the U.S. determined Hezbollah trained militants that attacked U.S. forces during Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Any notable recent events?
Yeah, just last year, a joint study by George Washington University, West Point, and the NCITE Research Center found that 128 people linked to Hezbollah have been involved in U.S. federal criminal cases between 1997 and 2020. Most of them were charged with providing financial support to Hezbollah.
Connor, thank you. And you're going to find more information on this Fact Check team topic, including links to Connor's sources, by scanning that QR code on your screen or visiting thenationaldesk.com.
Keeping an eye on your money, the wealth of American families surged at a historic pace during the pandemic, according to Federal Reserve data released this week. Median net worth swelled by a whopping 37% in 2022 from pre-pandemic 2019 numbers after adjusting for inflation. But not all the news is good. The latest iteration of the Fed's survey of consumer finances also showed that income inequality widened. New numbers from Michigan economic consulting firm Anderson Economic Group suggest the United Auto Workers strike has cost the economy $7.7 billion through the fourth full week. It has cost workers $359 million in lost wages, while the big three Detroit automakers, Ford, GM, and Stellantis have collectively lost $3.45 billion. Auto dealers and customers are reportedly out a combined $1.21 billion. Earlier this week, I sat down with former White House economic advisor Steve Moore to get his take on the strike's economic impact, plus how the Israel-Hamas war could change the price at the pump. After a month of U.S. auto workers, we've been talking about this, walking off the job, Ford's executive chairman called for an end to the strike, saying they could cost the company the ability to invest in the future. How do you weigh the demands of auto workers against future investment opportunities? And what do you think the economic impact is here?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you're right. This strike now, Dee Dee, has gone on for several months. And there's no question it's costing Ford and GM a lot of money in terms of the reduction in production of new cars. Meanwhile, you have a situation where the auto companies are really struggling, in part because they've invested very, very heavily, billions and billions of dollars in electric vehicles. And guess what? Americans are buying those electric vehicles nearly at the pace that the companies had thought, and that means they're losing money. And look, if these companies continue to lose money, they can't stay in business, and then the workers don't have a job to go back to. It's that simple. So these auto workers need to be attentive to what's happening to the company that they work for. If it's not a profitable company, they're going to have to eventually lay off people. So it's a very precarious situation for both the tens of thousands of workers that are on strike, but also the company and its investors as well.
Steve, we want to ask you about the war in Israel, which could send oil prices skyrocketing and really putting the global economy at risk for a recession. According to experts, how do we avoid a recession and an inflation spike at this point?
Well, so far the interesting thing, Dee Dee, since these attacks on Israel began and this war began, is that the oil price actually has not moved nearly as much as I would have thought. We're now at about $85 a barrel. That's about where it was prior to these murderous strikes on the Israelis. But I take your point. I do think that we're going to see the oil price rise if these tensions continue to mount and if this war escalates, because after all, the Middle East is a major area where the global supply of oil comes from. And so that would be really bad news, Dee Dee, for American consumers, because when oil prices go up and gas at the price goes up, guess what? The price of everything goes up. Food goes up, travel costs go up, manufacturing costs go up. So, you're looking at $4 a gallon of gas now. With those higher prices, you could see $5 a gallon gas. And that would be really harmful to American consumers who are really, for 2 years now, have been struggling with the high price of oil. It's interesting to me because when Trump left office, the price of gas was about $2.49 a gallon. Now in most markets, it's about $4 to $4.29 a gallon. I'm just hoping those prices don't continue to rise.
Steve, the retail sales report was released yesterday. What did you make of the report? With interest rates elevated and inflation rates high, can customers afford to keep splurging? And by the way, the holiday shopping season upon us.
Boy, it's a precarious economy right now, although I have to tell you there was a report by the Federal Reserve that estimates that the economy right now is growing at 5%. Now, Dee Dee, that's a pretty fast rate of economic growth. So we're getting kind of conflicting signals right now. I think the big question mark for Wall Street and for investors is what the Fed will do. And I believe that the Fed is going to hold pat. Remember, they've had 11 rate increases. You look at what's happened with mortgage rates and rates on consumer credit. Those rates have risen very significantly. I don't believe, Dee Dee, that the Fed should be raising rates right now. I think it would be a big, big mistake, and I don't think they're going to do it.
Former White House economic advisor Steve Moore, thank you for your perspective and for joining us this morning on the National Desk.
Have a great day. Thanks so much.
You too. The IRS is moving ahead with a plan to build its own free tax filing program. Direct File is a pilot version that will be available to some taxpayers in 13 states next year. The IRS anticipates that at least several 100,000 taxpayers will participate in the program, which will help it determine whether it's feasible to offer a government-run tax filing system to more taxpayers in the future. New details: a New York lawyer says the suspect in several Gilgo Beach murders could be connected to at least 2 more victims. Rex Heuermann is charged in the deaths of 3 women who went missing in 2009 and 2010. Authorities say one of the newly discovered connections could be to a missing woman named Shannon Gilbert. A lawyer representing her estate says 4 previously unknown witnesses have come forward and could connect Huerman to the case. The Suffolk Police Commissioner says his department will investigate all leads. So to come here on the National Desk, our team of correspondents breaks down this week in Washington, from potential U.S. involvement in the Israel-Hamas war to misinformation about the conflict spreading on social media.
And welcome back. Our Washington Bureau covers the nation's capital every day to report on the important issues facing the country and how they impact you. The Bureau's correspondents are here with their insights on the stories they've been covering. Israel's forceful response to the Hamas terror attacks on October 7th, stoking fears of bigger problems in the region and globally. Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman, tell us about that.
Well, Steve, it's because they're not only facing real danger in the south with Hamas, but of course, if you look to the north, near the border of Lebanon, where they have received some incoming rocket fire and other artillery at the hands of Hezbollah, the U.S. designated terror group that is in Lebanon and, of course, has furthered backing from Iran. That's one big concern, that this would create a much wider war and it would be more difficult for Israel to defend itself on 2 different fronts if that's the case. So that's been the focus of the United States, the President, the State Department, and Defense as well. And additionally, these new reports out from the Associated Press indicating that some of the weaponry that has been recovered that was in the hands of Hamas during that first wave of an attack actually came from other countries. They are finding now weapons that they believe are from North Korea. And then there are also additional reports from CNN that some weapons are Chinese or Russian that they have acquired over years.
And meanwhile, national correspondent Christine Frizzell, one incident, the bombing of a Gaza hospital and who was responsible, sparking not only global protests, but a debate on the reporting of information amid the fog of war.
Yeah, this is becoming a disturbing trend. Whenever there's an emergency, whether it's a natural disaster or a pandemic or a war, we're seeing bad actors use everything from social media, but also play on people's fears. People want to know what's going on around them. It's part of the human condition. And so they start to put out information, whether it's accurate, inaccurate. Sometimes it just has a spin, but we don't know what that spin is. And they put this out and it changes the narrative. And as we know, in the fog of war, the narrative of the war is almost important as what's going on the ground. Now, in the case of the explosion at the Gaza City Hospital this past week, we saw, very trusted publications like the New York Times, the Associated Press, actually put in their headlines at the time covering this breaking news, Israeli blast or Israel attack. Later, the Israeli Defense Forces said it was not them. Intelligence from the United States of America said they don't believe it was from Israel. And yet, in that amount of time, we saw a summit that President Biden was supposed to have when he was in the Middle East with Arab leaders get canceled. We saw massive worldwide protests. And so when this, information comes out that isn't always accurate, it can really change things. And yet it was wrong, or at least we think it was wrong. So this is something that it's becoming a major concern, and this war has barely even started.
And national correspondent Kayla Gaskins, here in the U.S., the response or non-response of some top universities to anti-Semitic protests generating some backlash. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Steve, groups of powerful alumni, billionaire alumni who make very big contributions to these universities, like Harvard, like UPenn, like Cornell, are voicing their displeasure with how their universities, their alma maters, are responding to this Israel-Hamas war and how they're responding to the behavior of students on campus. Harvard alumni very upset over that letter that has made headlines since this broke out. More than 30 student organizations at Harvard blaming Israel squarely for this attack. UPenn has its own issues, and actually UPenn is the one hemorrhaging the most big billionaire donors right now. Mark Rowan has announced he's pulling his support. He and his wife have donated $50 million to the university. The Huntsman family, there's 3 generations that have attended UPenn, now announcing they're halting all of their donations. The Huntsmans also donating more than $50 million over the years. And then there are donors like David Magerman. He's donated $5 million, saying his checkbook is closed. And the Lauder family, that's the Estee Lauder beauty billionaire family, announcing they are re-examining their donations. During the pandemic, the Lauder family donated $125 million to Penn. So this is real. These universities will likely feel these donations once they're not there anymore. Harvard alumni also really pressing their university. The big billionaire donors hasn't been as big at Harvard as it has been at UPenn, although Israelis, one of Israel's wealthiest couples, have severed ties with the university as well. And they've had plenty of alumni like Larry Summers, who was also a former president of the university, expressing their displeasure with the school's slow and what they see as an inadequate response, which these donors are equating to an embrace of anti-Semitism. Steve.
Kayla, Christine, Scott, excellent reporting as always. Thank you all for your hard work. Back to you.
Thank you all. And right now, student loan relief is available to some who haven't qualified for federal programs. There is a growing list of states offering to pay off student debt. As the National Desk's Angelo Brown reports, it's an effort to attract more skilled workers.
We're talking about states with an aging population. Most states have a worker shortage, and they're basically offering this trade-off. Come to work in our state and we'll pay off some of your student loan. The deal is those jobs may be in rural areas or maybe underserved communities. This October report from the Hechinger Report found 42 out of 50 states are now offering some sort of loan repayment or forgiveness for certain fields if college graduates work in their state and stay a while.
States have looked at their population and said, oh, wait a minute, we don't have enough veterinarians. There's 4 or 5 states in the West that are offering to pay your student loans if you come live there and practice for a period of time.
Take Utah. Doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals who work at least 3 years in underserved areas in Utah can get up to $75,000 of their student loans paid off. In South Carolina, if you teach in both a critical subject and a critical geographical area, your loans will be forgiven at 33 1/3% or $5,000 for each full year of teaching. Career specialist Julie Balke has this advice for young people.
You know, what I would tell young people in this situation is, you know, this city in this state might not be the most exciting place, but if you go there for a couple years and you can get a good portion of your debt paid off or your loan forgiven, it's going to be a long-term win for you.
In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Coming up here on the National Desk, saving lives in Israel, the story of a Florida resident after joining the fight. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. From a South Carolina police officer's heroic actions to save a child's life, to a Florida surgeon helping EMTs in Israel. We're taking the pulse of America. But we start in Wisconsin, where a police dog is recovering after being shot.
A Fond du Lac County Sheriff's canine is being hailed a hero after a deadly weekend shooting. The canine is out of surgery after being shot on Saturday morning.
This is a very unusual circumstance, right? It would be in any neighborhood.
Around 6 a.m. Saturday, Fond du Lac police and sheriff's deputies were called to the 500 block of Drury Place. They found a man inside a vehicle. Gunfire was exchanged. The man was pronounced dead at the scene. The deputy involved in the shooting has been placed on administrative leave per department policy. A second dog, Dwyer, is being recognized for donating blood to the injured canine. Outside of Dwyer, officials say support from the community has been overwhelming.
They know that the public they serve has their back too, right, and wants to support them, as well as the canine team, because they think of them as officers as well. They're part of the team.
Things that I'll never be able to unsee and smells that I'll never be able to unsmell.
On that Saturday morning, when terrorists began killing and kidnapping hundreds of Israelis, the 43-year-old Boca Raton neurosurgeon was sitting in synagogue.
Slowly, we started seeing the young men of the community kind of getting pulled out one by one from synagogue to the point where, you know, the singing, dancing, everything turned from a very joyous celebration to a very somber time of confusion.
That next day, Daniel was suited up in the back of an ambulance, volunteering with United Hatzalah, riding straight into the middle of the violence.
We were there to help treat some injured police officer, and they were clearing RPGs and grenades that were left behind in the building.
He is in it for the long haul, to do whatever he can to help the victims of terrorism.
The only thing in my mind was prepare myself for what I was going to find.
It's a call no first responder wants to get.
One of the hardest part of this job is dealing with children.
A child ejected from a moving vehicle on I-26. When Officer Marzan arrived on the scene, he knew he had to work quickly.
When I ran over to the child, her right arm was tragically amputated. Quick response was to try to stop the bleeding as fast as possible.
Thanks to Officer Marzan's work, doctors were able to reattach the child's arm.
She has a cast on her arm, and she is starting to get sensation already back into her fingers.
But this isn't the first time Marzan has been hailed a hero. 1 year ago, he saved a driver from a burning vehicle.
The door was pinned shut. Went around the passenger side, that was pinned shut, and just pried and got the door open.
Marzan downplays the hero title, but admits times like these are why he does the job.
Still ahead here on the National Desk, America's News Now. Thanksgiving dinner deals, how shoppers can spend less and seat more for this year's Thanksgiving. Keeping an eye on your money, Walmart and Aldi are cutting costs on Thanksgiving items. Lower prices on things like ham, stuffing, and pumpkin pie will be available at Walmart until December 26, but the retailer didn't say how much lower prices will be. Meantime, Aldi says it is slashing prices on more than 70 holiday classics like gravy, potatoes, and green beans by up to 50%. Right now, overall grocery prices are up 2.4% from 1 year ago. Hitting snooze has no impact on sleep quality. According to a new study published in the Journal of Sleep Research, researchers found those who hit snooze several times over 30 minutes were alert more quickly versus those who got out of bed the first time their alarm went off. They also found snoozers were almost 4 times as likely to be night owls. So here's to snoozing. That'll be all for us on the weekend edition of the National Desk, America's News Now. Don't forget, you can catch us live from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Check your local listings and watch us online and catch up with the latest headlines on thenationaldesk.com. Thanks for watching the weekend edition of the National Desk. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and from all of us here, have a great week.